Welcome. Welcome to the Sea of Galilee. Here we are making a co-production, a joint venture between Fellowship Travel International and Amiel. And here we are at the Sea of Galilee. I see that many of you are joining now. Please send the links to your friends, to your family. We're waiting for more people to join us. We're in one of the most beautiful places in Israel, in the Sea of Galilee. And I would like to show you the place from the sea. We can see a lot of sights here. And please join us. We're waiting for you to join here in the Sea of Galilee. And just write to us, where are you watching this program from? It's a special joint venture, as I said, a corporation between Fellowship Travel International and Amiel. So we're waiting for you. Please join. Okay. Welcome to the Sea of Galilee. My name is Eli. I'm a guide working with Amiel Tours. And I'm here in one of the most beautiful places. I love this place. And if you ask me which is the place I love most, is the sea itself. Being on a boat on the sea. And here we are on a boat on the sea. Before I begin, I would like to present our captain, Ido. Ido, can you come just to say hello? This is our captain, Ido. And we are here in the sea. It's a little windy, but it's very nice. And this is a very small boat. Hello, Ido, how are you?
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
Nice meeting
Thank you for
also.
taking us. This
My
is Ido,
pleasure.
and when you come to Israel, he's going to be your captain.
Hopefully.
So see his face. He's very, very professional, and we're working with him a long time. Now, I'm a guide many years, and I choose to guide this place because this is my favorite in Israel, the Sea of Galilee. So let's begin. Speak first about the sea. You call it Sea of Galilee, and all pilgrims today, all Christians, call this place Sea of Galilee. But if you read the New Old Testament, the name that appears there is Kinneret. It appears in Joshua 11, in Numbers 11, in Joshua 13. Sometimes it's called Kinrot. Also has different names, like the Jewish Talmud calls it Sea of Gennesaret. And in the New Testament itself, they use most of the time Sea of Galilee. Where it's coming from? The first time this name appears is in translation of the Old Testament to Greek, the Septuaginta, and that is called Sea of Galilee. The New Testament gives it different names. For example, John 6, Sea of Tiberias. In Mark 6, it's called Lake of Gennesaret. But most of the time, Sea of Galilee, and this is the name we're going to use. Now, this is a small sea. Basically, it's a lake, and it's sweet water, fresh water. This is the deepest sea in the world. It's around 700 feet below sea level, and it's surrounded by hills and mountains. And all around the sea, the circumference of the sea is around 35 miles. And the area is around 64 miles square. The deepest point is around 150 feet, and it has a little over 30 kind of fish, when the most famous fish are a small kind of sardine, a kind of tilapia that when tourists come here, they used to eat it, and they call it the St. Peter fish. I know you don't like the word saint, but this is the name of the fish, and a lot of catfish. Now, for example, when we read in Matthew 13 that they are picking up the fish, collecting the good ones, and throwing to the sea the bad ones, maybe the bad ones are those unkosher fish that doesn't have scam, and these are the catfish they are throwing back into the sea. Now, the sea itself has behavior. Today it's a little windy, not so bad, but sometimes we have very strong storms here. And sometimes it's foggy. So if you read, for example, Matthew 14, he meets here near the lake four is his first disciples, John and James, Zebedee, and Peter and Andrew, probably near one of the beaches here. It's also written in this chapter that Jesus walked on the water. Now, this is the most famous thing that people all over the world know about Jesus. Even if they don't know who is he, they know he walked on the water. And where? Here in the Sea of Galilee, this description in this chapter. And even Peter is walking, but he loses his faith. Jesus holds his hand and he saves him. But something much more impressive is what appears in Mark 4. Jesus is with them on the lake, and suddenly is a big storm. Jesus is sleeping. They wake him up. They say, "Wake up, there is a storm." And he calmly wakes up, calms the storm, and tells them, "You lost your faith." And they are asking, "Who is this that can stop even the tempest here in the sea?" Now look the similarity of this to Jonah's first chapter. Jonas is escaping from God, and he goes on a boat to Tarshish, and in the middle of the sea, a storm. He's sleeping. They're waking up. "You're sleeping, there is a storm." And they make a lot. And they find him, they say, "What happened? Why is this?" He said, "I'm escaping from God." He says himself, "Throw me into the sea." And the moment he falls in the sea, the storm stops. And these people say, "Who is this God that can stop a storm?" And they begin worshiping God. Now see the comparison, only with one difference. That there God stopped the storm, and here Jesus stopped. And when the disciples ask, "Who is this?" they only have to read Jonah first chapter, and then they know who is Jesus. Now, I would like, please, if you don't mind, to read you something from the Bible. And then from this we can understand about Jesus coming here into the Galilee. And we'll explain later why he came and from where he came. So let's begin. This is from chapter 4 of Matthew, 23 to 25. Basically, this tells us the whole story of Jesus in the Galilee. Jesus went throughout Galilee, teaching in their synagogues, proclaiming the good news of the kingdom, and healing every disease and sickness among the people. News about him spread all over Syria, and people brought to him all who were ill with various diseases, those suffering severe pain, the demon-possessed, those having seizures, and the paralyzed. And he healed them. Large crowds from Galilee, the Decapolis, Jerusalem, Judea, and the region across the Jordan followed him. That's the whole story in the Galilee. Now, why he came here? Well, he's coming from the area of Nazareth. Probably beside 2 camels and 1 sheep. Nobody knew him. But here, along the sea, is going one of the most famous roads. It's called the Via Maris, Way of the Sea. So when Jesus comes here to this area, basically he's not going to the people. The people are coming to him. So when you read feeding 5,000, not including women and children, feeding 4,000, preaching at the Mount of Beatitudes, where all these people are coming. They are travelers, many of them. And what he gains through this, that they are taking free of charge his message all over. So that's the reason he came here. Where he came from. So if you can please pinpoint, please, Mount Arbel. Over there is Mount Arbel. Now this mount is facing the lake. If you stand up there, you see the whole area. And maybe this is the place where Jesus went to rest sometimes from all the people that were surrounding him. But in the bottom, in the north bottom of this mountain, there is a road. It's called the Road of the Dove, or in Arabic, Wadi Hammam. And this is a road that's connecting to the Via Maris, and it's coming all the way from Nazareth. So probably he came from there, and the first place that he meets, because he's on his way, is the southeast place that he begins preaching, and this is Magdala. That's in the northwest side of the lake. And then you can read in Matthew, in Luke, and in the second chapter of John, that he comes from Nazareth, and even John mentions the true Cana after the miracle of turning the water into wine. He comes with his disciple and his family, and he settles down in Capernaum. So this is the place, and he's wandering here around 3 years. Now I want to make you like imaginary story. Try to think that you people are from Jerusalem 2,000 years ago. And you come over here because you have to go to Damascus, and you come through this Via Maris. And on the way, on the northwest side of the lake, you see a big crowd of people. You get close, and you see young men preaching. Matthew 5-7, and in a short way, Luke 6:21-49, Mount of Beatitudes. You hear this guy, he's speaking amazingly. His speech is universal. You are very impressed. You ask, what's the name of this man? They tell you, this is Yeshua, Jesus. So you continue to Capernaum because you want to rest. You stay there one night. And when you enter, this guy, Matthew, who is a tax collector, and he tells you, when you come back, remember, you'll have to pay us taxes because you're crossing to another country. And next morning, when you get up and you prepare yourself to leave, you see something amazing. You see this man you saw yesterday with the same clothes, dressed so simple, with his, simple sandals and clothes, and you see this noble centurion coming to him and with his two hands say, thank you, what can I do for you? And he said, nothing. And you ask people, what is this? And they tell you, listen, a couple of days ago, he was in Cana. And through a word, he healed his son that's here in Capernaum. And we sent a message to him, and he came to say thank you. He doesn't believe how, with a word and a speech, his son could be cured. And then you continue to Damascus. When you come back, you rest again in Capernaum. And then you see a multitude of people near a house. You ask, whose house is this? And they tell you, this is the house of Peter, one of the disciples of Jesus, the guy you saw, Yeshua. And you see suddenly 4 people bringing a paralytic because he cannot walk. And they bring him up to the roof. They break the roof and they put him down. And after a couple of minutes, you see this paralytic coming out. And they say, he healed him. You go back to Jerusalem and you tell your friends. Hard for them to believe this. Next year you come, you pass through Magdala, and you want to go to the synagogue. And as last year, a multitude blocking the way in the synagogue. And you ask, what's going on there? Tell you, Yeshua is preaching there. Say, this guy I saw last year. Yes. And you continue to Capernaum, and then you see something really unbelievable that really changed your fate totally. You see this couple that you know from last year. They look so sad. Say, what happened? And the father tells you, my 12 years old daughter died. And we have to bury her because we Jews bury immediately. But they told me, wait for Jesus. So I'm a doctor. I didn't tell you this. And I said, can I check her? And I go in, I check, and I see that she's dead a couple of hours already. I said, sorry, she's dead. And then suddenly, this man, Yeshua, is coming in, and he says, everybody out. And outside, we hear him saying in Aramaic, Talita, that means young girl, Kumi, get up. He can make a girl that's dead wake up. And then the father comes out jumping. She's alive. I go in, I don't believe. And then I see her. She's totally alive. Wow. I must tell you, 2 years later, when I heard that this man is coming to Jerusalem, and I hear the people shouting, and I see many people waiting at the gate in front of Mount of Olives, I also joined them because I'm very impressed by what I saw. And then I go out and I shout with the people. John chapter 6, chapter 12, Hosanna, blessed is he who comes in the name of God. Blessed is the King of Israel. Rejoice greatly. Rejoice greatly. Daughter of Zion. Shout, daughter Jerusalem. See your King comes, you're righteous and victorious. And then it reminds you that the same thing you see that appears, the same story in Zacharias 9, and you understand where the people are taking this. So now that we know all this story about Jesus, let's pinpoint the sites here, because all these sites, when you come, you're going to see, and they're quite amazing. So the first site, in the bottom of the Arbel, it's called Magdala. They dig this place, and they are digging it over 20 years. And they find an amazing town where they used to produce boats, make boats. They have a big port, rich people, huge market, and they had a big market of fish and salted fish. And they even built in the modern times an amazing site that's based on Luke number 5. It's called Launch into the Deep, Duk un Altum. In Luke number 5, Jesus comes to them and says, did you catch anything? And they say, all night and not even one fish. He says to them, launch into the deep. And they have so many fish that they cannot pull the net. And then suddenly, Peter, after all this and catching the fish, he leaves everything and goes with Jesus. What does it mean? Well, probably what it means that when Jesus said, launch into the deep, he meant into the deep of spirituality. But the most amazing thing that they dig there is a synagogue. And this synagogue is amazing because in the synagogue, between two layers of floor, they found a coin. And this is a coin minted by the son of Herod, Herod Antipas, who was in charge in this area. He was the tetrarch, the guy in charge in this area. And this coin is from the year 29 AD. Now you know that the year 29 is according to the birth of Jesus. So definitely Jesus was preaching during this time. So there is no synagogue in the whole country, in the whole world, that you can say probably Jesus was preaching here. Isn't that amazing? That you come to a place and the guy tells you, probably he was preaching here. So you continue, and next place you see is a place where they used to dock ships. It's Gennesaret. It's a little further over there. When you see the buildings over there, that's Gennesaret. Now probably not a site because they didn't find anything there, but that's a place where they used to dock the ships. In Matthew 14, they docked the boat there, and the people recognize him, begin to spread the message. But the most amazing thing, that in 1986, almost 40 years ago, two brothers that lived there, there is a kibbutz there, that how, not surprisingly, it's called Gennesaret, Genosar, they found a boat. And this boat looks like our boat. Look at this boat. This looks like a fisherman boat 2,000 years ago. And by the way, they built this according to what they found there, because they have the model. And this is a double miracle, because they found a boat made of wood. Now, oxygen eats the wood 2,000 years. And it was covered with so much mud that it was protected. But they knew that if they pull it out, it's going to be ruined. And the second miracle is that the atheists already had all the systems to save the boat. So with a special foam that they put on the boat and they sailed it to the shore, they succeed to save it, and it took a year to dry it. And today you can see in a small museum over there the boat. Now they call it the boat of Jesus, but definitely from the time of Jesus. Now if you continue to the north side, where they spoke about this, Mount of Beatitudes. In the bottom of the Mount of Beatitudes, near the lake, we have two amazing sites. One is a traditional site that the people in the 4th century thought that this is the place where Jesus fed the 5,000. When we read Luke chapter 9, we understand that probably it happened near Bethsaida. But it doesn't change the fact that it's an amazing place. They found a floor from the 5th century with an amazing mosaic. One of the most beautiful and reserved mosaics from the 5th century. You see a table, 2 fish, and you probably will tell me 5 fish, 5 bread, but there were 4 bread. Why 4? So we jump now to John chapter 6. He says, Jesus, I am the bread of life. So he is the 5th bread and he is not there. Near also you see the fish. Now this is very symbolic too, because in the ancient Greek, fish is called ichthys. And in Latin letters or in English letter, it's like I-X-T-I-S. And these are initials in Greek that say Jesus Christus, which means Jesus Christ, Jesus the Messiah. Theos, which means God, theology. Ios in Spanish is hijo, son. And Soter, Savior, Jesus Christ, God, Son, Savior. Then you have a place nearby that appears in John 21 when Jesus is feeding 7 of his disciples after resurrection. And this is the place where he talks with Peter and asks him 3 times, do you love me? Of course I love you. Guard my sheep, guard my flock. This is quite a fascinating place, even though it's very small. It's beautiful. And this is a nice place because you can go to the seashore and pick up small pebbles. The next site is Capernaum, the city that Jesus chose, and even Mark number 2 says that this is his house. Most of the time he was there. Where? Probably in the house of Peter. And I already told you about different miracles he did there. And Mark 1, he tells us about curing the mother-in-law, teaching in the synagogue, or whatever. When we come there, we find there 2 amazing archaeological sites. One is a synagogue, not like the synagogue in Magdala. This synagogue is 4th, 5th century. But under this synagogue, there are remains of a building. And maybe this is the synagogue from the time of Jesus. But the other place is fascinating because it has remains already from the 2nd century of a place that the local Christians used to venerate. Probably the house of Peter in Capernaum. Then we continue and we arrive to the northeast side of the lake. And this is Bethsaida. Then we know, according to Mark 8, that he healed there a blind man. Matthew 11, Bethsaida, Chorazin, that we cannot see from here, it's up top in the mountain. And Capernaum, Jesus cursed them. And he says, if the miracles I did in your towns were down in other places will repent a long time ago. The last place I want to show you is the other side. You see, all these today are the Golan Heights. During Jesus' time, this was called the Decapolis, the 10 cities, 10 free cities that even minted their coins. And this was not a Jewish area. They were pagans. And Jesus goes there, and this is the place where he heals the man possessed with demons. It's very hard to see from here, but if we get there, you will see a hill that all the slope falls into the lake. Where all these pigs went to, all these demons went into 2,000 pigs. Now you understand, this cannot be Jewish area. There are other places we cannot see from here, but are important. We already know about Nazareth, right? Annunciation, Lucas 1st chapter, and then Jesus, Luke 4, teaching in the synagogue, and Cana, John 2, John 4. From John 4 is where he's healing the son of this centurion. And then we have in the north some sites that are really important. One of them is Hatzor, Joshua 11, when Joshua has the fight with the kings of the north. This used to be called Mother of all kingdoms. They found a huge place. In its biggest time in First Temple, Jerusalem didn't exceed the 600 dunams. This place that was destroyed over 3,200 years ago was 800 dunams. And they found it burned totally, like described in the Bible. The other place, of course, very important for Christians is Caesarea of Philippi, Matthew 16, where Jesus asked them, "Who do you think I am?" And Peter jumped and said, "You are the Messiah, the Son of God." And Jesus tells him, "You didn't know this. The Holy Spirit tell it to you." And then he continues, turning him into number one. On your rock, I'm going to build my community, and so on. And the third place, and the last one I want to talk to you about, is Dan. Now you read about the tribe of Dan, one of the 12 tribes. But the tribe of Dan couldn't fight with the Philistines that were their neighbors. So part of the tribe went north and conquered a place in the north that turned to be the north part of the border of Israel. And it appears in Judges 18, and then we have in 1 Kings 12, Jeroboam turning, the first king of Israel, Dan into a cultic place. Dan and Bethel. Now when you go to Dan, you find altars and you find the high places. We're talking about something that's between 2,900 to 3,000 years old. I want to tell you, the discussion between archaeologists today is this 10th century Jeroboam or 9th century Achab. But nobody discussed about the fact that this used to be the altars. And in 93, they found something even more amazing. In Kings, in 2 Kings chapter 8, there is a story about the two kings of Israel. It was Joram, and in Israel, Ahaziah, and Judah, Ahaziah, go to war with Hazael, the king of Aram. And they lose the war. And one of the generals of Israel, Yehu, goes to Israel, a city, not Israel, and kills both kings. And he basically creates the long-lasting dynasty in Israel, 95 years. He himself ruled like 28 years, and his great-grandson, second Jeroboam, 40 years. And then they found this stone where depicts the same story described in 2 Kings 8. Hazael is telling how he defeated these two kings. The only difference between the two details is that the Bible tells us that the general Yehu killed them, and here Hazael is saying, I killed. Now, many times, in old documents, we find that people are boasting about things they didn't do. But think about this. Till this moment, one of the biggest debates among scholars was there really David? Isn't that a myth? What's written in this stone? I killed Joram, king of Israel, and I killed Ahaziah. He doesn't say king of Judah. He say from the house of David, which means David is a dynasty. All the kings, male kings of Judea, came from this dynasty. In Israel, a dynasty that each one ended with a massacre and a new one began. So basically, this is the explanation of what we see here all over. And if you have some questions, I would like to answer them.
Yes, we're going to go to a few questions from the audience, from the chat. Hold on a minute, pulling them up. Okay, so question number 1. Where does the water of the Sea of Galilee come from?
Well, that's a very good question. Well, not rains, they are less than 10%. We don't have rivers, we have water is coming through these small valleys coming down from the mountains, also a small proportion. We have fountains outside and even salted fountains in the northwest part that they are taking out and through a channel taken to the Jordan. Most water is coming from the Jordan River. Now, most people know that the Jordan River is basically going out from the lake and penetrating into the Dead Sea. But this is the long side of the river. The short side of the river, that's accumulation of 3 rivers. Hermon, Dan, and Chatzvani, it's coming from north. And this is most of the water that the lake. Now I want to tell you something, and this question was raised now. 2 days ago, they published the National Water Institute of Israel, because the last years were drought, are planning to do something that was not done in no place in the world. They want to bring desalinated water from the Mediterranean Sea to the Sea of Galilee, so it doesn't get dry. Do you have other questions, please?
Yes. So another question we have here on the chat is, why did Jesus not go into Tiberias?
Well, that's also a very good question. You know, Tiberias is a new city. It's, according to scholars, the dispute was built 17 to 20 AD. By whom? By the son of Herod, Herod Antipas. His capital used to be in Sepphoris, but he wanted to be here near the Via Maris to control. So he builds a new city. Amazing city according to the excavations. And even brought Gentiles and, Hellenistic Jews that we would call today secular Jews. But the religious Jews, though the believers, they want to come. Why? Because he built the city above a cemetery. And this city was cleaned only over 100 years later from the tombs. So Jesus didn't want to go to a city that was a sinful city. And that's the reason that the word Tiberias appears only in John 6, twice as a sea, and one time when Jesus is preaching, it's written, and boats came from Tiberias, which means the boats were not in Tiberias, were in front of Tiberias.
Okay, so it's very windy right now, so I'll ask the last question. As a guide, you're probably there so much. Do these sites still excite you? And which one is your favorite around the Sea of Galilee?
If your work as a guide, and if every guide is going to tell you this, doesn't excite you, the people immediately feel it. And the next thing you know is the agent calling you, sorry, Eli, tomorrow somebody else is going to continue with the group. You must love your job. And I love it very much. And I want to say that not in vain I choose the Sea of Galilee. And I know this is the feeling of many of the tourists that come here. The 40, 50 minutes that the people have on the Sea of Galilee are among the most loved place by the tourists. For me, that's number one. So thank you, people. And I remind you, this is a joint venture between Fellowship Travel International and Amiel. Please come. It's safe here. It's okay. You can come. It's wonderful. As the people already have been here, this is like get addicted. Believe me. Ask your pastor. If you are here once, you want to come every year. The only problem that stops you, yes, I know, it's not a cheap tour. But it's amazing, and I want to tell you something, because I'm also guiding outside Israel. Wherever you guide, you know how many kind of tours we have to Greece and to Italy? We choose a program. North Italy, South Italy, Rome, Florence. Here you cannot do that. Here you come to the sites, which means the sites are inviting you. You cannot go, you don't go to Tel Aviv as a Christian, you don't go to Haifa, maybe passing by. You want to see the holy sites, and this is what you come to see. And most of them are original. It's quite amazing. So please, we're waiting for it. Welcome. Thank you very much, and hope to see you here. I want to thank Fellowship Travel International and Amiel for choosing me to do this. And thank you very much.